Have you ever wondered how a tiny nation like Portugal, sitting right next to powerful Spain, managed to stay independent, even when Spain was conquering half the world? They were neighbors, competitors, and sometimes reluctant allies. Spain accessed the Americas, colonized half of South America, and ruled vast lands. However, Portugal? It stayed sovereign, right at Spain's doorstep. Why didn't Spain just absorb it? The answer reveals an incredible tale of resistance, global ambition, and a historical legacy that continues to shape Portugal today. From launching the Age of Discovery to becoming a modern hub for digital nomads and renewable energy, Portugal has always done things a little differently. Let's dive into the Portugal world, one of the oldest nations in Europe and a country that has quietly influenced the nations for centuries. The origin of a nation. Portugal's movie begins long before the word Portugal even existed. The region was settled by Celts, later ruled by Romans, and then the Moors, Islamic rulers from North Africa who introduced advanced agriculture, architecture, and mathematics. In the 12th century, Portugal emerged as a kingdom under Afonso Henriques in 1143, making it one of the oldest continuous borders in Europe. While Spain would become a united country only later, Portugal had already carved out a distinct identity, with its own monarchy, language, and ambition. The Age of Discovery. Then came the 15th and 16th centuries. The Age of Discovery, and Portugal exploded onto the global stage. Backed by visionary leaders like Prince Henry the Navigator, Portugal launched daring sea expeditions. They were the first Europeans to round the tip of Africa, reach India, and explore the coasts of Asia and South America. In 1494, Portugal and Spain signed the Treaty of Tordesillas, which split the world into two colonial spheres. Portugal got Brazil, parts of Africa, India, and Southeast Asia, while Spain took most of the Americas. Imagine that, a country of less than 2 million people managing a maritime empire across 4 continents. Lisbon became a global capital of wealth and culture. Portuguese ships brought spices, gold, and knowledge that transformed Europe's economy and science. Why Spain didn't conquer Portugal? How did Portugal avoid Spanish invade? Actually, for 60 years, Spain did rule Portugal, from 1580 to 1640, during what's called the Iberian Union, after the Portuguese king died without an heir. But even during this time, Portugal retained its own laws, empire, and currency. Eventually, the Portuguese Restoration War broke out, and in 1640, Portugal regained full independence, thanks to popular resistance, foreign alliances, and a strong cultural identity that Spain couldn't erase. In the centuries that followed, despite the wars and natural disasters, Portugal fiercely guarded its sovereignty. The 1755 earthquake, a turning point. One of the biggest disasters in European history hit Lisbon in 1755, a big earthquake, followed by a tsunami and fires, that destroyed much of the city and killed tens of thousands. But this tragedy became a defining moment. The rebuilding, led by Prime Minister Marques de Pombal, was seen as an early example of urban planning and disaster response. Streets were redesigned, and the city rebounded with new Enlightenment ideals. This was actually a creative destruction. The fall of empire and rise of republic. In the 19th century, the empire started to crumble. Brazil gained independence in 1822, and political instability rocked the monarchy. By 1910, the Portuguese monarchy was abolished, and the First Republic was born, but it struggled with chaos and short-lived governments. This instability paved the way for a dictatorship under Antonio de Oliveira Salazar in the 1930s. Salazar's regime, called the Estado Novo, lasted for more than 40 years. It was conservative, authoritarian, and kept Portugal isolated from the rest of Europe. The Carnation Revolution, a peaceful uprising. Everything changed on April 25, 1974. Fed up with censorship, repression, and costly colonial wars in Africa, young military officers led a peaceful coup known as the Carnation Revolution. Why carnation? Because citizens placed flowers in soldiers' rifles, symbolizing nonviolence and hope. This marked the end of the dictatorship and led to democratic reforms, the decolonization of Africa, and a reorientation toward Europe. joining the EU and embracing the future. Portugal joined the European Union in 1986, which opened up new funding, trade, and infrastructure projects. The country modernized rapidly, with highways, schools, and healthcare expanding across regions. In 1999, Portugal also adopted the euro, reinforcing its integration into Europe. But like many EU countries, Portugal was hit hard by the 2008 global financial crisis. By 2011, it needed a €78 billion bailout from the IMF and EU. Austerity measures followed, and unemployment soared. However, Portugal rebounded thanks to smart economic reforms, tech sector growth, and a booming tourism industry. Portugal today, a modern European success. So what does modern Portugal look like? It's a top tourist destination, with stunning coasts, cities like Lisbon and Porto, and charming villages like Sintra. It's a leader in renewable energy, often running entirely on wind, solar, and hydro for days at a time. It's welcoming digital nomads and entrepreneurs with attractive tax and residency programs. The startup ecosystem is growing fast, especially in Lisbon, often called the San Francisco of Europe. Portugal ranks high in quality of life, safety, and freedom of expression. Education, healthcare, and infrastructure are steadily improving. Culture, football, and global influence. Culturally, Portugal punches far above its weight. The melancholic music of fado is recognized as UNESCO cultural heritage. Portuguese cuisine, from pastéis de nata to bacalhau, is gaining global fans. In sports, Portugal is the birthplace of Cristiano Ronaldo, one of football's greatest legends. The Portuguese language, spoken in Lusophone countries like Brazil, Mozambique, and Angola, continues to bind millions around the globe. Portugal's soft power is rooted in culture, diplomacy, and global connections. Of course, Portugal still faces challenges. Wages remain low compared to other EU countries, driving many young people to emigrate. An aging population strains the healthcare system and workforce. Housing prices in Lisbon and Porto have surged due to tourism and foreign investment. But Portugal's democratic institutions remain strong, and its international reputation is growing. Portugal may not be a superpower, but it's a survivor, a connector, a quiet innovator. It resisted colonization by its neighbor, built a global empire, overcame dictatorship, and emerged as one of the most admired nations in modern Europe. It proves that size isn't everything, vision, resilience, and identity matter more. So the next time someone tells you about Europe's most influential nations, don't forget the little country with a big heart, Portugal. This is Ms. Shortcut. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share for more deep dives into the stories that shaped our world.